Yeah, we'll see now. Okay, there we go. Let me introduce myself. I'm Larry Nelson. I am the president of SCORE Dallas, the chapter. Uh, we are a nonprofit organization. We are a U.S. Organization, nonprofit, made up of approximately 11,000 volunteers across the United States. SCORE has a two-pronged mission. We are here to help small business owners with two facets. One is we provide business mentoring. All of our business mentoring is provided totally free. I encourage everybody to reach out to your nearest SCORE office and seek out a person who's kind of been there, done that, and can provide some basic information to you to help assist you with the direction of your company. The other aspect of what we do is we use and do educational services. So today we're doing the developing digital marketing strategy, but we produce over the course of the year, we'll do about 135 workshops. Right now, most all of those are true webinars. We've converted our face-to-face type workshops, but we do it on about 31 different topics. So I encourage everybody, and I think I have it set up later in the presentation, go to our local website, which is dallas.score.org, dallas.score.org, and look at the icon that says take a workshop, click on that, and you can see all the workshops we have scheduled for at least the next 2 months. So we have quite a few queued up in our event calendar right now, but at least you can see what we have coming the next couple of months. So today we're going to talk about developing a digital strategy. I am going to try to do my best not to ask you guys a lot of questions. With it being a webinar-based type of thing, I usually like to move my presentation along according to the audience. It's a little bit harder to do in a webinar type platform, but I'll try to refrain. And as you have questions, though, like I said, put them in the chat box or wait till the end of it, and I'll have people open up their mics at that time and you can talk. So let's start moving forward. So I talked about SCORE in general. We are a free service for our mentoring. Because we're a nonprofit organization, we do have to develop some lines of revenue. And so as you're seeing today, you paid for this particular webinar. That's how we support our organization. All of our volunteers are true volunteers. They're not paid. So myself and Stan and many others, I think we have about 85 here in the Dallas office. They volunteer their time to give these webinars, to meet with you as clients, and to give you the best service that they can. But definitely our educational services are our primary source for revenue. What we're going to talk about today is we want to understand why, okay, or what is a digital marketing strategy. So many people think about digital marketing in general, but they don't think about creating a true strategy. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the types of digital marketing as far as the sources. We're not going to go deep into any of those sources. Okay, so hopefully you'll attend one of our other workshops. Like we have one on e-commerce coming up this Saturday. It's called E-commerce for Beginners. And it will talk about just dealing with the internet and how you sell online. And then we have one called Building Your Brand. That's also on Saturday. It's at 1 o'clock. And it's building your brand with Instagram. Of course, that's a social media platform. But we'll do, things like Instagram, Google. We'll talk about Facebook. There's a variety of sources out there. And through more detailed type of webinars, we'll get into those for you. But today, we're just going to touch the services and tell you what's out there. We're also going to talk about, and this is the main thrust, how to create your actual strategy. And then we'll talk about some references that hopefully you'll go to research a little bit more, and we'll have some time for question and answers at the end. So what is a digital marketing strategy? You know, it's a series of actions that all of you will take, but you select them very specifically for the online marketing channels. Okay, that's the digital side of things. It's basically a series of actions to help you achieve your goals through selected online marketing channels. Now, these channels include what we consider paid, earned, and owned media. And all of these types of channels can be used in any particular campaign that you want to do. But there's paid, earned, and owned. And I'm going to talk about each of those because it's very important to you. Okay, the paid media piece. Pretty easy to understand. It refers to any vehicle or channel that you spend money on to catch the attention of your buyers. You all probably plan or budget for some advertising dollars. So you're putting them out in Google AdWords, Facebook ads, Google ads, whatever. Just any type of advertising that you're using on the internet, okay? That's your paid stuff. You know that. You pay the bills for it. You should understand what it is and what you're getting. Now, this piece of media is not so well understood. It's called the earned media. And the earned media is simply refers to the exposure that you get through word of mouth. And you think about this a little bit. If you try to sell your product and you go out and you pay all this advertising and you're putting on your own ads and you're paying for it and you're telling people how great your product or your service is, that's wonderful. Okay, you need to do that. But it's better to have somebody else sell your product for you. A friend, a family member of a potential, buyer will probably believe their friend or family much more than they'll believe you. And so the more earned media that you can acquire, the better off you'll be. So you want this word of mouth type of advertising. And so that's why you tend to solicit feedback from your clients. You love to have other companies post some of your content on their websites. There's a variety of ways for you to achieve this, but the more and more what you consider earned media, this positive feedback given on different sites, just like a Yelp listing giving you a rating, that is earned media. Now, hopefully it's positive. But your earned media can be good and it can be bad. The unfortunate part is it's harder to control your earned media. It makes sense. Your paid stuff, you're putting that out. You know what it is. You know exactly what it'll say. Earned media, though, that word of mouth, you don't control it so much. So be aware of that. And the last is what we call the owned media. This refers to your digital assets that your brand or company owns, whether that's your website, your social media profiles, blogs, content, all that stuff that you create, that content that's sitting there, you actually create that. And so the content that you create, you'll ultimately find is one of the most important pieces as you get into your whole strategy. Because in order for you to be found over time, the more content, the more regularly you change that content, keep adding to it, the easier it's going to be found, okay? So let's talk just, like I said, this is high-level view, but from a digital marketing perspective, all of you, when you create your websites, have to pick a host. Who's going to host this website for you? And I've listed out some of them. There's literally hundreds of them out there. But, the InMotions, the GoDaddies, Wix, are just a few. You have to pick one out. When you pick out a website host, think about what all you need, okay? And so literally shop and compare the different companies. Excuse me, they all charge a little bit different price, but they also give a little bit different services. So think about what it is you want. Well, you might want an email account with them, right? Might want them to do some of the modifications, just a wide variety of services. So the backups and things like that are important to you. So that's from a website. From an email perspective, another huge portion of what your digital marketing is all about. Email tends to be for people you already know. So here's some of the platforms. Constant Contact, for most of you who have actually heard or signed up for this particular webinar this afternoon, you were a part of our Constant Contact, SCORE's Constant Contact email system. Probably about 80% of our people who sign up for a workshop hear about it through our email blasts. And so it's really important that we as an organization create an email contact list that is sustainable by us, but one that is truly our type of clients, okay? And so once we sold to you, we continue to try to keep selling. And that's the purpose of all of you as a business owner, is you'll find the least expensive way to sell is selling to your existing customers. They know who you are, what you like, and they don't have to be resold again. Now, from a social media platform perspective, this is something that unfortunately could change constantly. It is. This presentation was actually created about 5 months ago, and the numbers continue to change. But some of the top platforms that you probably have heard of, some you may not. I put some on here that you might not be aware of. But Facebook certainly by far is the largest social media platform out there with over 2.2 billion subscribers to it. Now, YouTube has caught up pretty well. YouTube, a Google product here, 1.9 billion people. WhatsApp, But, Tumblr down there, or QQ, many of you may not have heard. But again, look at who and how much they're reaching, 861 million people, with QQ. And I had never heard of QQ at the time. So with all of these digital marketing platforms and options, your quest is to research each of these, whether it be a social media one, email, or a website host, to find the one that meets your needs. So what that means is you have to sit down and define what it is I need. So, you should be doing that. Now I'm going to take my video off. I think it'll help maybe the audio portion a little bit here. But anyway, take a look at them, figure out which ones. So like Facebook, they deal with a different audience than potentially YouTube. They overlap, no doubt about it. But who does Facebook reach? Who does YouTube reach? Who does Instagram reach? Tumblr, and so forth. And the same with the email facilitators. What functions does Constant Contact offer that, say, MailChimp does not? Or Aweber, a Drip. And again, with all of these. So evaluate them before you buy. There we go. Okay, I had a little glitch there. I couldn't move slides. Okay, let's talk about creating your digital marketing strategy. This is really the brunt of the presentation today. We're going to talk about each of these bullets in more detail, but in general, you're going to build a customer profile. And that's what you start with. Who are the people that you want to have buy your product? And so we need to figure that out first, okay? And then we're going to identify how or what goals that you in your company have. And not only what the goals are, how can you affect those goals by some type of digital marketing tool, whether that be your website, through your emails, through your social media platforms, you know, which ones can be affected? Typically sales goals, everybody is pretty familiar with having a sales goal. And so can you affect your sales? Not all companies sell, through their websites, but they can affect sales by getting more people to call the office, maybe through a Facebook ad or posting on any of the social media sites, or definitely they can affect the buying habits of existing customers through email campaigns. So understand which goals you have and how or which digital marketing tools you need to affect those. Then evaluate your existing digital channels. When I talk about evaluating them, we need to take a look at the owned, the earned, and the paid media campaigns that you're presently doing today. Hopefully you have, a campaign out there to get earned media. Hopefully you're soliciting people to give you feedback on your company. But you need to audit these things. So, and then ultimately, once you do that, you know what your customer is going to buy. You know what digital tools are out there that will affect your customers. Okay. You know what you've presently been doing. And in some cases, many of you may be new to this and you're not doing anything yet. That's okay. You're going to create a plan. Okay. So let's talk about each of these in a little more detail. So let's talk about building your customer profile, your personas. A lot of things you need to try to find out about who your customers are. And I'm just listing some of the topics here, but you need to know certainly location, where your customers are. If you're a barber shop, you realize that most clients that go to barbershops will not drive probably more than 5 miles to get to a barbershop, depending how remote they are, okay? If you're a scratch bakery, the same way. Now, again, your location is important, but again, how far will customers come to acquire your services or your products? Or location may not be important at all if you go to them. But again, location is one of the things you want to evaluate. Is it important to your company? If so, then you need to know where your customers are. Age, again, age may not be a dependent thing, but many times it is. And it's definitely going to affect the type of social media that you utilize, right? Every one of the social media platforms tends to deal with some different age groups as well. So age could be an important factor. Income, job titles. So, income, that's a little bit more sensitive. You're not going to typically acquire that type of information just by doing research at the library or anything like that. But certainly in some doing personal type of research, you may. But is income important? Are you providing a service that or a product that people are going to use disposable money on? Okay. Well, if so, you need to get to the folks that have the income that have the disposable money. When I started out in college, I barely had enough to, feed and clothe and shelter myself. Food, clothing, and shelter were the most important things to me. So that was important. I didn't have a lot of disposable income to buy frivolous type of thing. So again, where's your product sit and who are the people and do they have the money to do it? Job titles. Job titles, if you sell a business to business type of product, job titles are important to you. So certainly you want to put that in your profile. But the goals, this is where you have to dig deeper into your customers a little bit. What are their goals? What are they trying to do? The product or service that you offer should be solving a customer problem. Okay? We all start a business because we're there to solve a problem. So understand what your customers' goals are, what problems they face in order to achieve those goals, and understand how your product or service fits into that. Okay? So goals is a very important. important piece. The challenges. What is preventing your customers from succeeding today? Okay, what's in front of them? So again, reach out, try to work, understand who your customers are, what challenges, do they have? And again, you're going to figure out how your product fits into that. The hobbies and interests of your customers, again, very important. Had a lady wanting to start a quilt store up in northern part of Texas here. And so she needed to find people who had hobbies and interests around quilting. Well, come to find out, she could do research on that. You say, well, how do you find that out? There are plenty of databases out there that track people on the magazines that they subscribe to. And in this case, under the quilting area, there were several quilting magazines that she was able to find the subscriber list. She purchased them and was able to create basically a starter list of potential customers in the geography, because she was creating a brick and mortar store. She knew people were going to come so far, and that's a case where quilting is so unique that people would drive over 20 miles to get to a quilt store because they sell unique products and fabrics and so forth. So she was able to expand her location, considerably, just because of her type of business. And then priorities. Now, all of your customers have many, many problems, okay? Things that they're trying to deal with every single day. What you need to try to relate, in their challenges and their goals is, how do they set priorities to these? Because again, your products need to fit in, and you're trying to get in the front of the line with your customer and make sure that buying your products and services become a priority. So you yourself need to be, supplying a level of service that fits their priorities, okay? So keep in mind, it's their priorities. Okay. Take a quick break here. I need to take a drink of water. Now, I encourage all of you, because this is a webinar, that you go get yourself a drink or something to eat while we sit here and try to learn a little bit today. Occasionally, I need to take a swig of water just to clear my throat. So let's talk about identifying your goals and the digital marketing tools that you'll need. So if we were sitting live in a classroom today, I would ask you all to literally sit down and write out your top 3 goals for your company today, okay? So right off the top of your head, or better yet, think about if you have an employee. If you ask your employee to write down what the top 3 company goals are, write them out. And so usually I give people a couple minutes to do it, but I'm not going to make you sit in silence all that long. But you should know what those are. As a business owner, you should know your top 3 goals, okay? Most of the goals are going to relate around sales or sales growth. It's going to relate around customer satisfaction. And the third one typically relates around employee satisfaction. So those tend to be somewhere where most of the goals are in the company. Now, there are subset goals within each of those categories, but typically those are the top 3 headers. So now that you've identified what your goals are, okay? Don't worry about what I just said, but what your goals are. Determine which goals are affected by some sort of marketing. So take each one of those goals and say, okay, if this was a goal around sales, how, excuse me, how could I affect my sales? Now, you might take a look at the email campaigns for your existing clients. Do you have a list of who your existing clients are with their email addresses? Maybe it's not. You don't have emails. You have their home address because you delivered the product to them. Well, that changed from digital marketing now. You're probably going to go to snail mail. But part of your strategy may be to ultimately get their email addresses because it's a much cheaper source, continually trying to market to a customer. But anyway, you're going to take a look at sales, okay? What can I do? Can I affect it with emails? Yeah, I could do that, or even snail mail. Could I put something on the website to enhance them or to make it? Maybe yes, maybe no. How about social media platforms? Do not enough people know of who we are, what we do, how well we do it? So again, through social media, you might be able to bring more people to you. Now, whether you're bringing them to you to make the sale or you're bringing them to your website to close the sale, it doesn't matter. The fact is you're doing the marketing effort to generate the leads, okay? Now, you have to be able to support that with the ultimate goal. Your website has to, if you're selling off the web, you have to have a website that does that smoothly. If you're bringing people to your office through a phone conversation, then your sales force, who has to close it, still has to close it well. But the marketing side, the digital marketing side, is to bring you the leads. Now, define how you can measure the results of the digital marketing. This is a piece that most people fail in. You have a goal, okay? You're going to try to address these goals with some type of digital marketing strategy. So I'm going to create an email campaign. I'm going to create some Facebook posts. I'm going to do some things on Instagram. I'm going to put a video out of how to use this on YouTube, okay? So if you do all of those things, what are you expecting to happen? Do you expect that if you put out an email campaign, people will come back at a certain rate and say, hey, I saw your email to me. I'm really interested in your product and I'd like to buy it. Well, I would hope that every marketing thing that you do has some type of call to action into it. So if you send an email out and that email has a call to action, call my office today, tell me bonus buy, discount deserved, and I'm buying this product today. So there's your call to action. Call my office, tell me that you have this special code, and I'll make a sale to you today. Now, the goal is if you send out 1,000 emails, how many people do you expect to open the email, to click on the email, or to call your number? Or, maybe you have the call to action to go to your website. You should have some goals in there that you can measure. So hopefully you do. You create these. So everything should have a call to action and every goal should be measurable. Okay. And that's not always that easy, but there's a lot of ways that you can do it. If you, even if you do an email campaign soliciting, well, let's go back. So let's say you do a hard mail campaign soliciting people's emails, okay? Again, you're looking for a number of people who are going to respond to you. You should be able to do that based on the call to action and then measure it. So if you said, I expect 10%, if you didn't get 10%, you need to start asking yourself, why not? Maybe it wasn't that enticing. Maybe it didn't get read. So there's different things that you want to do. And again, this is why you want to get in. If we're going to do some social media marketing webinars, I think these will help you get into more specifics of this. This isn't the intent of today's, but there's ways of doing that, okay? But you want to have a goal. You want to determine which digital marketing is going to affect that goal, and then you want to put measurements, okay? And everything you do in marketing has to have a call to action. Now, the next thing we need to do is take a look at what you're doing presently, okay? So a task for each of you after the call today is to sit down and list all the different types of marketing campaigns that you're doing. And I would suggest you try to separate those into owned, earned, and paid based on the descriptions I gave you in about the third or fourth slide. So again, I'm really encouraging to have a lot of earned, okay? Hopefully it's positive earned. But take a list, write them down, and then again, you may not have done this at the start, but what results are you getting? We want to go back and take a look at what are the results I'm getting from my existing campaigns. So if you're posting onto Facebook, what was the purpose of it to begin with? Okay. What did you expect, would happen? And is that happening? Are you getting people to call your office? Are you getting people to bring in a coupon or tell you a certain code when they come into your shop? These are ways to measure it. And measuring it may be as simply as uh, maybe you have a brick and mortar and maybe it's a beauty salon or something like that. When people come in to your door and greet the receptionist, whoever's at the front desk, somebody in the conversation, one of your people can say, "How did you hear of us?" Okay. And simply keeping a tick sheet beside, the cash register there, counting the number of people that walked in and said, "Oh, I saw you on Facebook. Oh, I saw you on Instagram. I got an email from you." Okay. Those would be simple ways to try and to track it. But there are ways to try to do it. So take a look at your existing results. Are you getting what you expected? Define which campaigns work and which ones don't. Too many people continue to use campaigns that aren't working for them. And again, it goes back to having measurements. I mean, defining what is good and what is bad. A lot of people, see that YouTube, or a lot of people went with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Okay, because those were the predominant ones at one point in time. But they failed to sit down and take a look at, well, who's Facebook reaching? Are they really my clients? Does it have a good call to action in it? The same with Instagram. Instagram is more visual. It's typically to a younger audience. Facebook today has kind of gotten the image of being for old people. I dislike that image myself since I'm an old person. But that's kind of the way it's gone. And so you have to stay up with these social media platforms as to who they're appealing to. Same with Instagram, it's a visual. So what are you doing on that? Well, the other visual is YouTube, right? Can't get much more visual than YouTube. And so maybe you're using Instagram and it's working, but maybe you need to evaluate something as simple as YouTube as well. So again, take a look at what's working, what's not working. Certainly what's not working, you want to understand why. It could be simply in the text. What have you put out there? Maybe you don't have a call to action. And this is actually the case in many times when I sit with clients. They don't have a call to action. They put this post out and say, maybe they're showing, and I'll pick on a bakery again, they show a beautiful cake, decorated, and talk about the ingredients, and they put it on Instagram. But that's it. There's no call to action there in any way. Or you might see that on Facebook too. They lacked trying to drive you to come buy their product. And so make sure you have the call to action. So that's the purpose of doing a root cause analysis of each campaign. If it works, you want to know why it works. If it doesn't work, you want to try to understand why it's not working. Because you don't want to give up on something. You could have something on Instagram, and as a platform, it's a wonderful platform if used correctly. But if you're not using it correctly, it may not be getting you the results. So again, what is your call to action, and determine, is that working for whatever platforms that they're using. And then I kind of touched on it, but identify the gaps. You may be doing something, like I said, on Instagram, but a better visual might be YouTube. It reaches more people. It allows the video aspect, I think, a little bit better. The searchability on it might be better. So again, you never know. But again, you have to research them all. Okay. Make sure you're using the platforms that fit your business, not others. So audit the plan. So determine how many times you want to touch your clients. Have each of you thought about the existing clients that you have out there and the potential clients? How many times should I touch them over the course of the month or week? So if I want to do a Facebook post, I don't want to necessarily post every single day to the same people over and over and over. Maybe I set up a strategy that I want to do a Facebook post twice a week. Maybe I want to do one Instagram post that follows suit with what you're doing on Facebook. Maybe I want to touch my existing clients, twice a month. And with existing clients, because I know who they are, I'm going to drive something quite specific to them. And that might be through an email. You're not going to probably hit your existing clients, through Facebook. You know who they are, right? It's all the wannabes that are the clients that you want that you'll probably hit through the social media platforms. But again, how many times are you trying to touch them? In general, like at SCORE, we try to touch our clients about 8 times a month with some type of digital marketing. Now, we utilize email quite heavily. And all of you have probably seen that and sometimes wish that you could get rid of some of our emails. But because we do so much in education, we're trying to let people know, like I said, 135 workshops, there's about 13 workshops a month that we have to do. So that's 3 or 4 a week anyway. So you get a lot of emails, but you know what they are. We tend to hit the social media thing a lot less than that. Our social media, we try to post to our clients and to the general public in Facebook. We try to put about 6 to 8 posts a month out. But again, I have a plan on what we're doing that way. And now, because of the pandemic and everything that has come up, we're going to try to take advantage of YouTube a little bit more, in that this particular webinar is being recorded today. And eventually we'll get these webinars up on YouTube, most likely under our YouTube channel. But again, it's a way to reach our customers. Through our websites, you'll know that we have a strategy that you have the national website and then you have the local websites. The local websites really push the education, the mentoring services. Like today, Stan Booth has done a phenomenal job in trying to keep people appraised of all the information needed around the COVID-19 pandemic, and from a financial perspective, what the SBA and our government assistance programs have been. So any of you today can go to our website, dallas-score.org, and find a lot of that type of information. It's very valuable. And again, Stan has done that, but it's with the intent of dealing with our local clients. The national organizations, they too have a lot of that same information on there. It repeats itself, but then they have some other things too in general. And they have a lot of webinars that they have posted and educational programs that you can get for free from the national website. So anyway, figure out how many times you want to talk to your customer. Now, figure out which is the best digital method to touch these clients. Like I talked about, we've determined email. You need to determine, is it through email, through my website, or through some of the social media platforms? Okay. How can I best reach the people? So if they're new people, you can put a lot of effort in trying to get your website to where it's searchable. Okay. Almost everybody has a website today, and being found is more and more difficult. Stan Booth here actually teaches a class on how to make your website more visible. And Again, go to our local website to find out when those type classes are. But it takes a lot of effort to be found on the internet these days. So social media for new people might be an easier way to find a broader scope of clients. So again, which way? Now, social media is great, but is it Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any one of the 8 or 9 that I had picked out, or others? Okay, if you have some very specific things in your type of business, there's probably some social media platforms that really define that audience very well. So again, I suggest you do your research. And then figure out from a content perspective, what do your clients want to hear? Remember, we talked about what are their problems? What are their challenges? How can I impact that? Okay, so typically your clients want solutions. Okay, and I saw some stuff on Facebook here recently. They're pushing this new comb cutter. You comb it through your hair and it cuts your hair. Well, it's a wonderful type of ad to place today because the barbershops are all closed. My hair's getting longer, and I thought immediately, typically I wouldn't stop at an ad like that, but I saw it solved a problem that I have. Okay, so what's relevant to your clients today? And that's the type of content you want to put, no matter what type of marketing you're doing, whatever source, that's what you want to fulfill. Meet the needs of your client. Okay, now the real challenge here is you have to decide, and this is truly a decision, are you going to try to reach them with your paid or owned advertising, or is this something that can be earned? Like I said, if you can get earned advertising for yourself, it's much better. People believe in it more. Okay, so you should have a budget. Understand what you're going to spend, and then select the sources and go ahead and spend that. But spend enough time saying, how can I get others to sell me this earned income, or earned campaigns is very important to you. So like getting, many of you probably, if you're providing, some services or products, you may be on Yelp, and you have some type of evaluation or your rating. Okay, if you sell on Amazon, right, you get a rating, or any of those online markets give you some type of rating. We all pay attention to that. If you're a 5-star seller versus a 3-star, you didn't pay to get that. Okay, but you did get it, okay, through the services that you delivered. And so look for what can be earned and try to drive that. Do you request testimonials from your clients? You can solicit from your clients. Say, hey, tell us, how did you like this service? Many of you, if you've worked with SCORE, after you've met with a SCORE mentor, SCORE National sends you a survey immediately. And it asks you, how did you like the services we provided? What would you like to see different? So surveys is an excellent way of trying to find out and to get solicitation. So you see a great review, you can contact that customer and say, hey, can I use that as a testimonial on our website? Okay. So there's ways to build that. Again, that is earned through your selling of services or products. Let's talk a little bit about the resources. And I think the PDF that I sent you, these are clickable links, but here's some other guides that I suggest you take a look at. The Beginner's Guide to Digital Marketing, the 13 ways you can make some digital marketing work for you, and the Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing. Those were 3 reference things that I looked at and read, and were quite helpful to me. Now, the other thing is use the SCORE national website. Just go to score.org, and I put in digital marketing. And when I put that query in, I came up with over 1,700 articles talking about different facets of digital marketing. So there's tons of resources out there. Like I said, you don't have to do this totally on your own. You can do certainly a lot of research, yourself, but I suggest you talk to a mentor. We have mentors who specialize in marketing, and they're there to help you. But a lot of it, and many of us will sit you down and first ask to see what your plan is. What is your overall strategy? Who are your customers? And so it kind of backs itself up to that. So we've gotten to the point where I want to see what type of questions we have out there. Stan, if you want to open up your mic, I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to stop sharing this and go back to my video. Start my video up again. Okay, we'll take a look at some of these.
Yeah, sure. We've had quite a bunch of them coming through chat that I've been replying as we go along. The main questions, Larry, is how do you measure the effectiveness of a campaign?
Well, like I said, every campaign is a little different. And so the call to action is probably the most important piece of any given campaign. So based on that call to action, whether that's call my office, send me an email, send an order in, whatever that call to action is, you want to create some way to measure that. And so if you have something to where it's, give us a call. One way to measure that, so that is use a phone number that's unique in that campaign. So get yourself a second, phone number. They're fairly inexpensive to get. And so that you can monitor off your phone bill how many people called in the time frame when you ran that ad, how many people called that phone number to get to your office. That would be an easy way to do it. We used to, and this go back to the old days, it's not as much digital, but when we had people respond to a query that we sent out in a mail campaign, we had people send us back to a specific address, a mail address. Well, you can do that as well. So you could create an email address, a unique one, related only to the campaign that you're doing. And again, so that email address is only going to be used off of this campaign. So that's another way of doing it. So again, getting creative, I think, is important, but there's almost always some way, and like I said, you can always ask, if they're calling you, you can say, how did you hear about us? Or they're going to ask for a special deal. You certainly know that deal is only being offered in certain places, so just the fact that you sold something under a certain discount code or something like that, you'll know.
The new system through Google Voice, for example, you can get a free extra telephone number, and you can list that telephone number instead of your standard number, and that's absolutely free.
Yeah, and so a lot of this doesn't have to cost you a lot of money.
Then the other question was on shopping carts. As far as the building the website, and right at the beginning, one of the main criteria is, do I or don't I need a shopping cart? Take money through the website. And the answers there are certainly in WordPress, WooCommerce. Wix have another version of it, but a little more restrictive. And naturally, the one that's a little expensive is Shopify, that you can look at, but that, as Larry said right at the beginning, does tend to tie you down to a particular platform. You can't move easily. Whereas if you're in WordPress, you can move your host anywhere you like. If you don't get good service or and bad downtime, or as I had once, bad neighbors. We had a neighbor on a shared drive that was spamming, so they cut the whole drive off for a while. Then you can move easily, whereas if you're inside of Shopify, they want to double your monthly rent, you're stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, solutions to that. Depending how you want to sell, just like all of you on the call today who bought this webinar, on our website, we do not have a shopping cart, but you were still able to buy this because our website takes you to the link to where we make the sale. And in our case, we use PayPal. And that's basically, you make the decision on our website, but we use the buying mechanism to be PayPal. So all of you basically clicked on either our email that we sent you, which took you, or you looked at our website and you clicked on the workshop, and that took you to PayPal to register, make your credit card payment, and then we sent you back to us to where we gave you more information, the confirmation of the registration, and all that is done on the computer. And so most of it, isn't even seen by the user.
The other important point is this is a live webinar that allows interactivity, placing your questions at the time you think of it. And more important than that, we offer the service as with mentoring ongoing. And that means that what we've talked about today is general. We're able to specifically then handle your query.
So again, I encourage all of you, keep sending your questions in, or if you want, you can unmute your mic if you want to just ask us. I see, Stan, you've answered most all the questions, as people asked them. I think the most frustrating one, Stan, and we deal with it constantly, is when you do email blasts to your known customers, okay? Yeah. You have a capability of seeing the open rate, and that can be somewhat discouraging at times. But you're going to set a level of expectations. You set yourself a goal. So I don't create all of our email blasts myself. We have another mentor who does that. But we have set an expectation that when we send out an email blast, we know some will go into spam folders, okay? We know some will just get deleted, never opened, but we're betting on the numbers here. And that's the way marketing is. Okay, you're betting that if you hit enough potential clients, you're going to get the outcomes that you want. And so I'm expecting, if I send out, say, 15,000 emails, that I'm going to see about a 10% open rate. So that's 1,500 people that open that email. And out of that 1,500, I'm hoping, I wish it would be 1%, but it's more like 1/3%, will actually click and purchase. And that's kind of the numbers that you play. And so we do that over and over. And so, if my goal is to have in a given webinar somewhere between 20 and 30 people, or these used to be face-to-face class meetings, but today they're webinars, but still, if I get 20 to 30 people, that's my goal. And so from that perspective, knowing I'm emailed 15,000 people, I also put 2 Facebook posts out. We listed this in Instagram as well. And from that, I should get 20 to 30 people. Stay focused on your final goal. Did I get my 20 to 30 people? So for today's workshop, I can say it worked. Okay. I ran a webinar earlier this morning, and unfortunately, it didn't work because we didn't get the emails out in a timely fashion, and I didn't get multiple emails. I only got 1 email out, and it happened just 2 days prior to the webinar. And I only had like 8 people in that particular session. And so the failure where you do your root cause, see, that's the whole idea. When you do something and it didn't work, do a root cause. And so in this case, I knew I didn't get the email out in time. I didn't get the number of emails out, okay? And so that caused me to have a shortfall in my outcome, which I had 8 people instead of 20 or 30. So make sure you do that.